各位觀眾，大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄精華回顧。從1972年開始，溫哥華市公立嘅中學及其附屬小學咧，就實施駐校警察聯絡員計劃，以維護校園內嘅安全，必要嘅時候咧，制止暴力事件發生。但係該計劃喺2021年就因為有反對者擔心有溫哥華警察對於少數族裔學生唔公平對待等嘅因素而終止。而到咗2022年尾啊，當時新當選嘅 ABC 優化城市黨兌現競選承諾，溫哥華教育局就以5-4投票結果通過動議，決定咧將駐校警察聯絡員計劃修訂，並且喺今年嘅秋季恢復。對此，溫哥華教育局內部以及社區都存在住兩種唔同嘅聲音。現任溫哥華市府宣布，溫哥華教育局將會恢復溫市公立駐校警察聯絡員計劃。
I respect them for what they do. They are there for our safety and for the public. We just want to make sure as a parent, like if you're sending your kid to a school, you are confident that, the schools are safe and, there's someone over there if something happens, right?
駐校警察聯絡員計劃喺2021年被上一任嘅市政府取消，主要原因係擔憂警員之中有部分人存在對少數族裔學生以及教師存在唔公平對待。因此將會喺今年9月恢復嘅警察聯絡員計劃會作出幾點嘅更新，希望將計劃柔和化。
These are things like a different uniform, carrying a smaller gun, or a more concealed gun, maybe not having a marked police vehicle. So these are just some changes that we have proposed and that is open for discussion right now with our community members and the school board.
對於恢復該計劃，有家長持支持嘅態度。
尤其是有時候當我看到說像美國經常發生這個校園裡面的槍擊案，我就想說哇，那個校園要是有個警察在那邊，那不是好很多，對吧？至少可能會減少這個學生啊、老師啊這種傷亡的這種情況。
大部分嘅聯絡員咧係非常好。我記得我仔讀小學嗰陣時咧，咁就隔離Fairchild中學嗰個聯絡員，佢話佢管理唔係即係附近嗰幾間小學，咁佢都過嚟同我哋啲細路仔講解嗰個安全啊。咁我哋啲家長都參與去聽啦，我覺得好好咯。佢咁樣即係同啲細路仔分析啊，點樣安全啊，點樣互相之間，我覺得好好咯，我哋好安心咯。
去年底，溫哥華教育局學務委員以5-4投票結果通過動議，決定恢復駐校警察聯絡員計劃。有學務委員對此表示擔憂。
We heard from that report that Black and Indigenous and other marginalized youth were affected by having police officers in schools. There was a mistrust of police officers in schools, a trauma associated with their experiences and their parents' experiences with the police. And so my concern is that, if this program, or when this program, I should say, because it's been approved, goes back into schools, will those concerns continue?
有相關組織亦都堅持反對警員駐校，認為反對警員駐校嘅原住民以及少數族裔嘅學生以及家長冇受到尊重，而且諮詢過程太過草率。
We had all those stories come out, and then all of a sudden, with the new trustees, it just went so quickly with hardly any consultation. They gave us 5 minutes to talk about our position. And that's not proper consultation.
喺2021年嘅時候，教育局取消咗溫哥華駐校警察聯絡員計劃，係因為有學生表示喺校內見到身穿制服以及有配槍嘅警察，會引起佢哋嘅恐懼。對此，溫哥華警察局同教育局等多方面嘅部門商討之後，喺今年嘅4月底宣布更改溫哥華駐校警察聯絡員計劃嘅具體細節。其中就包括有關警員喺校內佩戴槍支等多項措施。
These are things like a different uniform, carrying a smaller gun, or a more concealed gun, maybe not having a marked police vehicle. So these are just some changes that we have proposed and that is open for discussion right now with our community members and the school board.
除此之外，修訂嘅內容仲包括駐校警員以高爾夫 T 恤或者 polo 衫以及登山褲去代替警察制服，
對警員進行文化意識培訓，更多樣化多族裔招聘。警方表示喺該計劃取消嘅時候，聽取咗反對者嘅聲音，呢一次將會以更柔和嘅方式駐校。
Well, we know that a few years ago, there were concerns with some police officers being in schools, and so it is very valuable to have police officers in schools. These officers were there, bridging the gap between those who need extra help or extra attention in the criminal justice system. Our goal, or the goal of the SLO program, wasn't to put kids in jail. That's not at all what they did. Our officers tried to speak with these individuals who were at risk, to try to identify problems, work with their families, work with the school, work with counselors on how to resolve issues in the school before ever needing to go to the criminal justice route. In fact, that way would have been avoided. So there is a lot of value of having police in schools, and we know that there's a lot of people in support of that. So we're trying to marry the two, bring cops back in schools, but also do it in a way that kind of makes everyone in the community agree with it and feel safe.
有反對者質疑駐校警察就算唔着制服，但係仲會有配槍，咁樣係會令到學生知道有警察喺身邊，引起學生嘅恐慌。對此，警方就有以下嘅回應。
Well, when it comes down to it, we're police, right? Police officers have some type of identification, and we do have a gun. So we are police officers, and to have us back in the schools, it comes with certain things that we need to have. We need to have our tools on our tool belt, and we need to be identified. So that way people who do see us know that we are the police. But I think that the purpose of that different uniform is just to appear less intimidating, less militarized.
2022年底，新執政嘅 ABC 優化城市黨喺溫哥華教育局佔4名學務委員，以及1名之前亦都屬該黨派嘅學務委員，咁合共5個人以1票嘅優勢通過喺今年秋季恢復駐校警察聯絡員計劃。Preeti Fairchild 作為溫哥華教育局副主席，亦都係支持該動議嘅其中一員。
Well, we knocked on over like 40 to 50,000 doors. And, every time we knock on the doors, people were asking us questions. They were asking us, why are you running for a school trustee? And my first thing was like mentioning about the school liaison officers program. And, they agree with that. And I don't know the exact number, but I would say, when you knock on over 50,000 doors and majority of people are in favor of that, you know that you're doing something right for the community.
佢強調警察駐校喺保障學校安全方面起到至關重要嘅意義，而佢哋同學生之間亦都建立咗良好嘅關係。有啲事情學生可能唔願意同老師或者家長傾訴，駐校警員就能夠成為咗佢哋嘅溝通夥伴。
The program is necessary in a lot of things. I've heard from a lot of youth, like from the kids in the school itself, that the relationship and the foundation of relationship and community building is so important for them. Some of them actually had a really close relationship with the school liaison officers in the school. One of the story I heard that something was happening in the school, and I can't disclose much information on that, but it was prevented, and that actually saved a lot of lives in the school before that incident would have happened. One of the other thing I heard from one of the youth during our public delegation meeting, that she was so close to her liaison officer that she was being bullied in school, and because of the the programs that they run and the coaching that they gave it to her, it helped her overcome her fear, and to be able to handle those bullies, and also to be able to stand up, that she got such a close relationship with that school liaison officer that on her graduation she actually wore the same dress that was worn by her liaison officer back in the day.
佢亦都表示喺2021年呢一項計劃停止之後，喺一啲校園內發生突發事件，如果有警察駐校，就能夠有效避免呢啲事件發生。佢認為校園嘅教師、導師甚至校長，有時候並唔係最佳處理突發事件嘅人士。
There's many incidents that has happened since the program has been shut down, and that hasn't been even hit the media, or it's kind of like stayed back and staff and teachers and the principals are educators. They're there to educate the students, not to stop a fight, or if there's an incident happening in school, they're not the ones that they should go and control the situation. We have VPD or the professionals for that reason. I'm not saying the police should be there to show as a police, but I don't want the cops in school either. I mean, but sometimes you gotta take a hard decision. I know the cops don't belong in school, but so does drugs, so does crimes, and so does bullying. So we have to see what's the best way to balance it all.
佢亦都一再強調，更改之後嘅駐校警察聯絡員計劃同過去唔同，將會以全新嘅面貌回歸學校，咁俾學生同教職員更加容易接受。
I just want to emphasize that when we're coming back with this program, we're coming with a very revised and a reimagined program, something that was there in the past for over 50 years. It's not going to come back with the same approach. It's coming up with a brand new approach. The kids, we heard them, the community, we heard them. And what we can suggest is the main concerns I said was the uniform, right? Second was the cultural awareness, right? Many of these school liaison officers didn't know how to approach with different culture and how to address their concerns. So when we're coming back with this program, we're increasing more culture awareness, where there will be proper training and ongoing support where the officers need to certify themselves on a regular basis for them to understand the culture.
咁對於支持年底恢復駐校警察聯絡員計劃嘅家長，佢哋嘅理由又係乜嘢呢？
因為我們平常開車或者走路啊、散步啊，都會經常在學校附近嘛，然後有看到有時候會有警察的車停在那邊，我就覺得這個是蠻好的。因為至少呢，就是有警察在，一種就是對學校好像感覺比較安全，那對學校來講呢，應該說這個學生啊、老師啊，這個學習環境啊，這個很重要，就是一個安全的、健康的一個環境也特別重要，所以我就覺得說有警察的車在那裡，感覺上至少對一種假如說有潛在的一種犯罪呢，會有一種威懾的作用。我就覺得這個是蠻好的，而且我們看到過去這幾年呢，溫哥華呢這個治安似乎有點變得不好，經常看到報道或者是聽到有一些什麼犯罪的行為啊，經常會有這些，就是說治安的這個情況不是那麼好。當然我們也不希望說這些會影響到這個學校這個安全，尤其是有時候當我看到說像美國經常發生這個校園裡面的槍擊案，我就想說，哇，那個校園要是有個警察在那邊，那不是好很多，對吧？至少可能會減少這個學生啊、老師啊這種傷亡的這種情況。
陳先生表示，佢曾經聽講有一啲不良分子潛入學校，佢認為如果有警察駐校，對於壓制呢一種情況就會起到關鍵作用。
但是我們也聽說過，曾經也有一些學校有一些黑幫的勢力，甚至都滲透到學校裡面，這個是絕對不應該的，因為學校是一個純粹學生學習、老師教學的一個地方，所以我們很需要這種安全的一種保障，絕對不能讓做一種這個黑社會啊，或者一種團體組織啊、一種犯罪組織啊滲透到學校裡面。
當被問到喺2021年曾經取消計劃嘅時候，係因為有人擔心警員有涉及種族歧視問題存在，陳先生就認為咁樣唔能夠代表大多數警員。
我是覺得這種只是一種個別的現象，但是對整體的來講，對學校的安全，我覺得應該是你有一個這個學校聯絡官，肯定是比沒有要好，對整體的這個安全環境來說。
另一位學生家長 May 喺呢一個問題上同陳先生有住相同嘅睇法。May 係孩子學校嘅義工，咁喺駐校警察聯絡員計劃存在嘅時候，佢同警察聯絡員有住密切嘅聯繫。佢表示見到嘅警員同學生都有唔錯嘅關係。
其實咧，我覺得嗰啲係個別事件咯，唔代表係大部分咯。大部分嘅聯絡員咧係非常好。我記得我仔 讀小學嗰陣時咧，咁就隔離Fairchild中學嗰個聯絡員，佢話佢管理埋即係附近嗰幾間小學，咁佢都過嚟同我哋啲細路仔講解嗰個安全啊。咁我哋啲家長都參與去聽啦，我覺得好好咯。佢咁樣即係同啲細路仔分析啊，點樣安全啊，點樣互相之間，我覺得好好咯，我哋好安心咯。
當時駐校警察計劃取消嘅時候，May作為家長義工，負責管理家長聯絡工作。佢表示其實好多家長都十分希望呢一項計劃能夠恢復。
以前咧，之前係取消校警嘅時候，我哋好多家長都反對，個個都我哋有啲 WeChat 群家長群咧，個個都希望佢簽名，希望佢支持有翻嘅校警。咁到依家呢個新政府咧，係能夠又安排翻恢復翻嗰個校警咧，我哋係好開心嘅。我哋係即係所有家長，即係大部分嘅家長咧，都係即係好覺得係好開心嘅安排咯。
下一節翻嚟，我哋會聽聽反對警察駐校嘅學務委員以及相關人士對於恢復該計劃有啲乜嘢嘅憂慮。歡迎翻嚟節目時間。雖然新嘅駐校警察聯絡員計劃已經進行調整，咁而警方亦都一再表示會以新嘅形式面對學生。咁但係反對者就依然擔心警員駐校會存在多方面嘅弊端，而對學生造成負面影響。
身為溫哥華教育局學務委員蘇絲媽馬陳小珠一直強烈反對警員駐校。佢表示過去已經有相關嘅報告以及專業人士認證，警察進入校園對學生會有負面嘅影響。
I am concerned that I want the key findings of the report to not continue the SLO program a year ago be addressed. So we heard from that report that Black and Indigenous and other marginalized youth were affected by having police officers in schools. There was a mistrust of police officers in schools, a trauma associated with their experiences and their parents' experiences with the police. And so my concern is that, if this program, or when this program, I should say, because it's been approved, goes back into schools, will those concerns continue? And my role as a trustee is to ensure that every child is looked after, feels safe, feels included. And I would hope that the SLO program would address that. And we know that the Human Rights Commissioner issued a letter just before the school board made a decision saying that, police do not have a place in schools. And so if we have somebody from the BC Human Rights Commission say no, and yet we're going ahead with it, again, I have concerns about it.
對於有支持呢一項計劃恢復嘅人士提出，美國發生校園暴力事件、種族歧視案件以及槍擊案，喚起佢哋希望有警員喺校園內並且立即應對。與此同時，反對嘅一方亦都有人將美國著名嘅 George Floyd 事件作為依據，認為參差不齊嘅警員質素會導致涉及種族歧視暴力慘案，因此校園內就唔應該有警察。馬陳小珠對此均有所回應。
Well, I think when we look at what's happening in the United States, of course, that's a different culture, right? Lots more population, different type of school system, right? In the way that students and the levels of poverty there are so much different and higher and concentrated and whatnot. I mean, not to say that we don't have the same problems here, but when we think about what happened to George Floyd, that was police with an adult. We're talking about police and children here, youth who have not committed crimes, right? These are police officers in schools where there are youth, and I don't know what that will mean in terms of, are these youth going to be asked to be interviewed by a police officer? What are their rights? And that's the main thing when we talk about what are children's rights. And you can't really compare what happened with George Floyd to children, but I also know that there are high schools in the United States that have, again, the same situation where the youth there feel traumatized and marginalized because of police presence.
對於警方表示將會以柔和嘅方式駐校，佢又有啲乜嘢嘅態度呢？
They talk about having cultural sensitivity training and specialized training. You would think that if they have that kind of training, that they wouldn't need to use a weapon. A weapon is a weapon. That weapon, even though it's a smaller weapon, even though it's less exposed, can still kill or seriously hurt someone. And we're talking about children here, right? We're not talking about a criminal that's running, a known person who has committed an offense.
馬陳小珠表示，雖然最終嘅結果係今年秋季要恢復警員駐校計劃，但係佢就會持續關注計劃嘅進展。
I would say once it's implemented, there needs to be a review. And what I would like to push for is a review, maybe at the end of the year, or maybe partway through the year, and have regular updates in terms of what's happening with the program. And to hear from youth and to hear from teachers and those people that are working in school.
Before I begin, I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm a visitor here on the unceded traditional.
有住原住民身份嘅溫哥華小學及成人教育協會副總裁 Marjorie DeMond， 佢認為除咗馬陳小珠所提及到嘅憂慮，警察駐校會引發原住民學生以及教師回想起歷史上警方對於原住民不平等嘅待遇，勾起佢哋傷害嘅記憶。
The history is really important because it directs how we go, where we go from here. The history of police coming into our territories all across Turtle Island, all across the province, and my own personal story of my great-grandmother having been forced off her homestead with her my great-grandfather and 7 children, and the police were basically created to take our people off the land. And so we cannot forget that, because that is really a big part of our history that really isn't told all that often. But we need to bring that to light, because the students in the schools right now, they don't understand how they feel. It's in their blood, it's in their memory of what our people were forced upon with the police taking us off our lands.
佢強調並非要禁止警察進入學校，而係喺學生、教師同學校工作人員需要嘅時候再出面應對，而唔係駐校。佢亦都提出，現時學校面臨嘅呢一啲問題根本上就係缺乏教育資源，而警察嚟到填補空缺，並非係能夠徹底解決問題。
The underfunded schools, the lack of funding, the cuts are impacting our system. And so to try to fill it with police is not going to benefit the students' success. So, when we have incidences that are critical and we need help from the police, we will phone them, but they need to be available to us at that time. We need more nurses, we need more counselors, we need more support staff. We don't need to cut those services and then try to fill it with police.
而佢亦都表示，聽過有警員喺學校對原住民及黑人學生唔公平對待嘅真實事件，咁樣令佢更加懷疑，如果警員駐校呢一類事件係咪會繼續發生？DeMond 亦都提到，喺決定恢復計劃之前嘅諮詢過程亦都存在問題，幾乎冇俾作為反對組織嘅佢哋有機會表達意見。
It was really difficult because they were asking us questions, but the questions they led to answers that would, they were created so that the police is already going to come in anyways. So, they formed the questions in a way that, okay, the police are coming back. And we didn't want to answer those questions because, our position is no policing in schools. The SLOs should not be in the schools. And we're listening to our members. And this is our position.
同馬陳小珠立場一樣，DeMond對於即將恢復嘅警員駐校計劃非常失望，但亦對此提出多項建議，亦都會持續關注計劃嘅進展。
They could work, take some of the recommendations from the Human Rights Commissioner. They need to start some research on and have evidence-based research on why or how this is effective in our schools. So they need to start that at the very least. You know, there is no research showing that this is effective.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘅意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。如果觀眾想上網重溫翻今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站點擊節目重溫一欄。下星期同一時間再同大家見面，晚安。